Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Christopher Rivas about Call Me Cat on Fox. He does a lot of other things as well. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here and chat with you.
Absolutely. Storytelling, that's what you are. That's what Christopher Rivas is. What excites you about storytelling, man?
Oh, it's the currency of the world.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, it's the thing that has warned us, prepared us, got us ready for bed, got us up in the morning. It's the currency of the world. It's like the world's most valuable commodity.
Absolutely. No, it's so true. You do a lot of things, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about, Call Me Cat. You do podcasts as well. I mean, did you know you were going to kind of do a lot of different things, or did it kind of just happen for you?
I think I'll just say like the one piece of advice I got that I think led to everything. A long time ago, I wrote this probably very bad movie, and I tried to get this guy to read it. I mean, make it was the dream. Just read it. And he said, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have time. But I want you to write every day. And then one day something's going to happen and they're going to be like, what else do you have? And you're going to open your trench coat and you're going to be like, I have this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened. Like I just kind of lived my life in a way where I feel like I really lived it. I was invested in it and everything that was happening and wondering why it was happening and writing about it and learning from it. And it seems as if now it has trickled into this thing where it's in different mediums, whether it's a play or a podcast or a book or on television. And I'm just excited for what's next.
This might be hard to answer, but I mean, do you love them all equally? Or is there one, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough, right? But is there one, because for me, like, I do a lot of things too, but for me, like, interviewing is my thing. Like, I love it. I'm writing some scripts. I do a lot of other things too. I write, but I love interviewing. Do you have one you like over the other, acting, podcasting, writing, or are they all the same?
Well, podcasting is the newest, so I'm learning a lot. And I'm so grateful for the Stitcher team because they're teaching me. It's not like writing something else, right? It's a different form. What's for the ear and radio and creating that world. I'm always going to say theater because it's the reason I do what I do. I saw John Leguizamo do a play as like a 13-year-old kid, and I was like, yes. So I think that is the place where I'm like, this is so special. But from everything else is also a little bit of that magic.
Yeah.
Like I love what I'm still learning from the film and television world. And yeah, I think I do love it all. Yeah.
Well, the one thing you're going to learn, I mean, I started this like Popternative, you're going to learn too, and I'm sure you know this of a lot of projects. Do you find it interesting how things just naturally kind of evolve and grow and change without you kind of thinking about it? I find like with my show, it started just as a podcast where I was interviewing a bunch of people. And then, I started in 2015 and it's still a podcast in many ways because they're posted on Spotify and Apple and everything. But like now it's a full media outlet. We're doing so many different things. And I never planned for that. Like it just kind of happened. Do you find like that happens a lot too with a lot of things that you've worked on?
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the faith I live by is just walk in the direction and don't worry so much about how it's going to look. Just walk with confidence or like walk following your passion. For you, it was, like I'm passionate about this thing. I don't know what it's going to become. And I think the world will tell you what it needs it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I've always lived by is just walk, right? A lot of people don't even start the walking phase.
Yeah.
And so just get going and then the world will like shape it into all these other things.
You also have to be able to kind of, like you said, walk and go and like get going, right? Like write your, like do it, start your podcast. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the waiting game is overrated. Mm-hmm. Which is because I find too that's something I find as well. Like people always ask me for advice about podcasting and everything, and I'm just kind of like, just start it, like record it.
Like philosophy, just do it. They got it right a long time ago. Just do it.
They did. You have so many amazing projects. Specifically, we're talking about Call Me Cat on Fox. You've been upped as a series regular for season 2. Congratulations. What's it like being on a sitcom? And what's it like being on a sitcom like Call Me Cat?
Well, being on a sitcom is kind of like the theater world I love so much. right? And that live audience component, the 4 cameras, the poppiness of jokes. Being on a sitcom like Call Me Kat is amazing because the cast is so fun.
Yeah.
Those humans are incredible.
Yeah.
The amount that we laugh when we're not filming is so special, and the way we get along and hang out. And I think that's why I was able to come in and become this series regular, because when I showed up last season, I always felt like they welcomed me from the very first instant I walked in that room.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a blast to be with them.
It's interesting too. Like, I feel like sitcoms always, like, it's funny, it's light and everything, but I feel like a lot of sitcoms have those like kind of intense moments and emotional moments where they're kind of like touching some pretty crazy moments and everything. Because I remember, like, I've noticed that now a lot where like sitcoms, but sitcoms always had that, right? You look at Family Matters, Boy Meets World, they always had that. It was funny, but it touched on really important like social issues. Do you find that's kind of like, what do you think about that kind of dynamic? Like, it's funny, but there's serious undertones to a lot of sitcoms as well.
Well, a little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down. And that,
Well said.
So the sitcom tries to give you the sugar with the medicine. And I think Kat, specifically of Call Me Kat, she's constantly battling these stigmas or social ideas that the world has, and she's butting heads with them, but in a funny way, so that we can look at this. It's what comedians do, right? They take the world, they take its seriousness, and they show you also how absurd it is.
Yeah, but I also I feel like comedy is just, you talk to a lot of people. I mean, there's an expiration date on comedy. Some things that are funny like years ago are not going to be funny anymore. You always have to be in the now. I feel like that's kind of one of like the hardest things. Like, I look at people that have to write like a comedy special or a comedy show, and I feel like that's like hard to do. Like, writing comedy where it always changes and having to be in the now. Do you agree with me on that a little bit?
Yeah, you're talking about writing something that lasts the test of time. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things in the world. That's why the greats are the greats.
But there's no, like, it's interesting. Yeah, because I interviewed Michael Schur about like all his amazing work, The Office, Parks and Rec, and everything. And he's kind of like, there's no formula. Like, you go in and you write like workplace, like office sitcoms. And I'm kind of like, I feel like there's got to be some kind of formula with a lot of these amazing writers that just kind of pump out sitcom after sitcom, right?
I think there probably is a formula, and the good ones know it and don't have to talk about it.
Yeah,
like it just kind of lives in their blood. But there's something, we've been doing sitcoms since the birth of this thing. Yeah. That I Love Lucy movie just came out, and it's like, wow, that's we've been doing it since then.
One of my favorite sitcoms growing up was like Boy Meets World, and like when I go back and watch it, I mean, Sean joined a cult, he worked for the mob. Like, there were some things in that were like really out there.
And I loved that as a kid.
So good. But do you remember that? Like, you joined a cult. There was that whole cult episode, and then like the center, like I was like a kid watching that.
That's why it's one of the good ones. You're just like, you're hooked. And
I know.
You learn things. Hopefully you learn things too.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. What is it? What would you say? We talked a little bit about storytelling in terms of like working on TV and being and like, transforming like from Christopher Rivas to like a character on Call Me Kat. What's your favorite thing about like working in TV and working on a show specifically?
Oh, it's meeting. I think every character you play has a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. And then it also can hopefully show you new parts of yourself you haven't met yet.
Yep.
So I think it's, with Oscar, it's the ability to like meet that part of myself that's quirky, probably much more even laid back than I am. And then allow Oscar to also show me parts of myself that I can learn from him.
Yeah.
About moving through the world. So I think that's my favorite thing about finding new characters, playing them, becoming them, meeting them, all of the above.
Is there kind of like a method or formula or like preparedness that you have that you do for like a lot of your projects, or does it kind of depend on the project? Like, with the script and everything?
I think it in varying ways, something it can depend on the
Oh,
project.
100%.
But for the most part, and I think I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but I think a lot of actors might say this. I think there's something about your first impulse and like trusting that first impulse. And what ends up happening is you have a first impulse, then you do a bunch of work and you like forget that first impulse. And then what you end up doing, like in The Alchemist or something, is coming right back to your first impulse.
Yep.
And I think going to all those other places when you like try and find a character is really important, because then you to return.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my process, is like trusting my first impulse, but then thinking it's really bad and doing a bunch of other things only so that I can come back to it.
It's interesting too, because I feel like naturally it's going to be different based, like, depending on projects, because some projects you might have like bigger, like it might be a bigger project, right? Like it might be like a big TV show, and then another project might be a movie where you have a couple lines. Like I feel like the length of the project, right? Like the size.
The length, the size, the tone, right? An indie film is not a sitcom.
Yeah.
But, like it's the knowing the tone and the story. I mean, that's why storytelling comes into play. Like, what story are they trying to tell? And, if you do like an episodic drama, is this the line that happens before commercial? If so, I have to deliver this in a different way than if it's a line after the commercial, or, feeling that tone as a project as a whole, and on a moment to moment, understanding tone.
Yeah. No, very, very true. And before we wrap up, Call Me Kat on Fox, when they get a chance to watch it, what are you hoping they get out of it, takeaway wise?
Joy. Like, I hope they have a good time. I hope they laugh. I think right now that is an important thing. Yeah. So I hope sure there's the medicine and the serious stuff that they take away, but really just laugh and have a good time for 30 minutes with us.
Oh, we need that. Absolutely. Yeah. We really do. We've been needing that for a while, if you think about that too. But Christopher, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was great chatting with you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's fun.
Can you plug away? I mean, people can watch Call Me Kat on Fox. Can you plug away your socials, your podcast?
Call Me Kat, you can watch on Fox. You can watch on Hulu, Fox Now, which is their app. And then you can hang out with me, talk with me, see me on Instagram at Christopher_Rivas. And if you Google my name, there's probably other cool things you can read or watch that I've done.
Just put the name in, right? Christopher Rivas. Put the name in. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Popternative.com has other content as well. And the audio-only versions of our interviews are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time, this is Christopher Rivas from Call Me Kat on Fox and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.